Marcus wiped down the marble floors of Callahan Tech's executive suite, his calloused hands gripping the mop handle like he'd done every night for 3 years. It was 9 p.m., and most employees had gone home, leaving behind their coffee cups and crumpled papers. He didn't mind the work. It paid for his daughter Emma's asthma medication and kept a roof over their heads in their tiny apartment across town. But tonight, everything was about to change in a way he never could have imagined. As he pushed his cleaning cart past the CEO's office, he heard voices, angry voices, and the sound of something being slammed against a desk. What happened next would reveal a secret so shocking that it would bring an entire boardroom to tears. Before we continue with Marcus's incredible story, I want to invite you to join our Kindness World family. If stories like this touch your heart and remind you of the good that still exists in this world, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and drop a comment below telling us about a time someone showed you unexpected kindness. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories that prove compassion can change everything. Now, let's get back to Marcus and discover what happened that night. Marcus had learned to be invisible. In 3 years of working the night shift, he'd perfected the art of cleaning around people without disturbing them. He'd seen executives cry after difficult calls, watched interns fall asleep at their desks, and never said a word. His job was to clean, not to get involved. But tonight, as he approached the hallway leading to CEO Richard Callahan's corner office, he heard something that made him stop in his tracks. A man's voice was shouting, threatening, demanding something. And then he heard it, a woman's terrified whisper, begging someone to stop. Marcus's heart pounded. His first instinct was to call security, but the building's security guard was making his rounds on the lower floors. Every second counted. He pushed his cart forward, trying to assess the situation. Through the partially open door, he could see Richard Callahan, the same man whose photo hung in the lobby, the billionaire tech genius admired by thousands. But right now, Richard wasn't alone. A man in an expensive suit had him cornered, holding what looked like a laptop, his face red with rage. The man was screaming about stolen code, about intellectual property, about destroying Richard's reputation. Marcus recognized him from company newsletters as Trevor Mason, the former chief technology officer who'd been fired 6 months ago amid rumors of ethical violations. Trevor's hand raised the laptop high above his head, ready to smash it. In that split second, Marcus made a decision that defied every bit of logic. He burst through the door, his cleaning cart crashing into the doorframe, and lunged forward. His shoulder connected with Trevor's arm just as the laptop left his hands. The laptop flew through the air in what felt like slow motion. Marcus watched it arc toward the plate glass window, and without thinking, he dove. His body stretched across Richard's desk, scattering papers and pens, and his hands closed around the laptop just before it could shatter against the glass. But momentum carried him forward, and he crashed into the window himself. The laptop slipped from his grip and fell, hitting the corner of the desk with a sickening crack. The screen splintered into 1,000 tiny fragments. Marcus lay on the floor, breathing hard, pain shooting through his shoulder. Trevor had fled the moment Marcus entered. Richard stood frozen, staring at the broken laptop, his face drained of color. For a moment, Marcus thought he'd made a terrible mistake. He'd destroyed the CEO's property. He'd be fired, maybe even arrested. 3 years of steady work, his daughter's medication, their apartment, all gone because he'd tried to help. Richard finally moved, kneeling beside Marcus. His hands were shaking as he helped the janitor to his feet. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus shook his head, though his shoulder throbbed. "I'm so sorry about your laptop, sir. I'll pay for it, somehow. I thought he was going to hurt you." What Richard did next shocked Marcus completely. The CEO's eyes filled with tears. He picked up the broken laptop, cradling it like something precious, and then he did something Marcus never expected. He started to laugh. Not a cruel laugh, but one filled with relief and something else, something that sounded almost like joy. "You don't understand," Richard said, his voice cracking. "You just saved my life. Not from Trevor, from myself." Richard sat down heavily in his office chair and gestured for Marcus to sit too. Over the next hour, as security dealt with Trevor and the police were called, Richard told Marcus a story. That laptop contained something that had been eating at his conscience for 2 years. Evidence of a decision he'd made, a choice to use faulty software in a product launch because it would have cost millions to delay. 3 people had been injured when that product malfired. The company had settled quietly, buried the truth under legal agreements. Richard had kept all the original files, all the proof of what he'd done, locked away on that laptop like a guilty secret. "I've wanted to come clean for 2 years," Richard said, wiping his eyes. "But I was terrified. Terrified of losing everything, of going to jail, of disappointing everyone who believed in me. That laptop was my cowardice made physical. And you just destroyed it trying to protect me, a person you don't even know, risking your job and your safety." He looked at Marcus with something like wonder. "When was the last time someone showed me real kindness, expecting nothing in return? I can't even remember." The next morning, Richard called an emergency board meeting. With Marcus sitting quietly in the corner, still in his janitor's uniform because Richard had insisted he be there, the CEO confessed everything. He showed them the files he'd recovered from the broken laptop's hard drive. He told them about the cover-up, about his guilt, and about the janitor who'd risked everything for a stranger. The boardroom sat in stunned silence. But here's what shocked everyone most. Richard didn't just confess. He announced his resignation, the creation of a victim compensation fund from his personal fortune, and the establishment of the Marcus Williams Scholarship for Children of Service Workers, named after the man who'd shown him what true integrity looked like. Marcus tried to protest, saying he was just doing what anyone would do, but Richard shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "Most people walk past. Most people stay invisible. You didn't. You reminded me what it means to be human." Marcus's daughter Emma got the medical treatment she needed. Marcus himself was offered a position in the company's corporate responsibility division, not because of what happened, but because Richard recognized that someone with that much natural compassion and courage belonged somewhere he could make a real difference. Trevor Mason was prosecuted for his break-in, but Richard's confession meant facing his own legal consequences too. Yet Richard later said it was the most freeing moment of his life. The story of the janitor and the laptop spread through the company, then through the industry, then across the country. But for Marcus, the real story was simpler. He'd seen someone in trouble and helped. That's all. That single act of kindness had created ripples he never could have imagined. It proved that we never know the full impact of choosing compassion over indifference, of acting instead of walking away. So here's what I want you to remember. Kindness isn't about grand gestures or perfect timing. It's about showing up, even when you're scared, even when it might cost you something. Marcus could have walked past that office. He could have stayed invisible. But he didn't, and in saving a laptop he accidentally smashed, he saved a man's soul and changed countless lives. Your act of kindness might not make headlines, but it might just be the thing that changes everything for someone who's lost their way. Be brave enough to care. Be bold enough to act. Be the person who doesn't walk past. The world needs more people like Marcus, people who clean floors by night and restore faith in humanity without even trying.